We are diving straight into a story that the corporate media in the West is either downplaying or completely ignoring, because the reality on the ground in Southwest Asia is a disaster for the Pentagon and for Israeli occupation forces. We are looking at a catastrophic failure of American military strategy and a massive humiliation for the Trump administration. Newly analyzed satellite imagery, confirmed by multiple defense officials and Airbus satellite photos, tells the story that Washington does not want you to see.
Iran says it has destroyed a U.S.-operated terminal high-altitude area defense, that is the THAAD system in Jordan.
Iran isn't just firing missiles. It's firing at the things that stop missiles. The heart of America's air defense. A $500 million radar, blackened, cratered, gone.
The United States military has lost one of its most prized and vital pieces of hardware on the battlefield. We are talking about the ANTPY-2 radar, the beating heart of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD, which has been completely obliterated at the Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan.
What do you think is the discussion between these, our highest-end defense companies and the president this afternoon? What could be done quickly if needs to be?
Well, I think the discussion is how do we plus up our counter drone defenses to, continue to strike down these drones, because clearly some of them are getting through, obviously more than we wanted to. We're seeing more drones penetrate our defenses than I think expected. We should be really honest with ourselves about that. That brings up, frankly, a larger issue that I've been talking about on this network for years. We have our critical installations around the world have been vulnerable. There are people in some of our own government offices who have failed the American people in purchasing failed equipment. That's why we're seeing some of these Shahed drones get through. Even one enemy drone getting through our defenses and striking a U.S. embassy overseas is unacceptable. And Mark, there's something, a cheap $20,000 Shahed forcing us to burn multi-million-dollar interceptors, starting fires currently at oil facilities in the U.S.
Let that sink in. This isn't just some antenna getting knocked out. The ANTPY-2 is a massive truck-mounted X-band radar system that costs nearly $500 million. There are only a handful of them on the entire planet, because they are supposed to be the absolute cutting edge of missile defense. It is designed to track incoming ballistic missiles from hundreds of miles away, painting a picture for the interceptors to take them down. It is the shield that the U.S. Army uses to protect its assets and its regional proxies, namely the Jordanian regime and the Israeli occupation. And now, satellite images show scattered wreckage, burned scars, and two distinct craters right next to where the radar was parked, suggesting it took multiple hits. The hit was precise, and it was devastating. This wasn't a stray round. This was a calculated surgical strike by Iranian forces to rip the eyes out of the American air defense network in the Levant. Following the launch of over 500 Iranian ballistic missiles and thousands of drones in this phase of the war, retaliation for the joint U.S.-Israeli aggression on Iranian sovereignty, the battlefield has shifted dramatically. The U.S. and Israel thought they could bomb with impunity, hiding behind these expensive defensive systems. Iran just proved that theory wrong in the most expensive way possible. Now, here is why this is strategically devastating for the axis of resistance hunters. The ANTPY-2 radar doesn't just serve the battery in Jordan. It provides the earliest possible warning to Israel. When that radar goes dark, the reaction time for Israeli air defenses to track an incoming Iranian missile from the east goes from a manageable window to a frantic scramble. You can't shoot what you can't see, and you can't intercept what you can't track. By destroying this radar, Iran has effectively peeled back the cover that the U.S. had thrown over Tel Aviv and the Jordanian puppet government. This is a high IQ move by the Iranian General Staff. They aren't just launching bombs hoping to hit something. They are systematically dismantling the command and control architecture of the enemy. And the cherry on top? Reports are flooding in from the region confirming that the U.S. military is now in a logistical nightmare. We are hearing that nearly 5,000 American soldiers are effectively trapped in Jordan. The airports they were planning to use for evacuation or reinforcement have been degraded or are under direct threat, and the ground routes, the highways through the desert, are no longer secure. They came to Jordan to beat the drums of war against Iran, and now they are sitting in the desert. surrounded, with nowhere to run. Before we get into the technical details of how this radar worked, how it failed, and why Jordan is now paying the price for hosting these forces, hit that like button and share this video. We are one of the only outlets telling you the truth about the American defeat unfolding in real time. If you believe in honest journalism that actually questions the empire, smash that subscribe button right now. We need your support to keep bringing you the facts they don't want you to hear. So, let's get into the weeds of this system. Because understanding why this loss is so painful for the Pentagon requires understanding what this machine actually does. The ANTPY-2 radar is often described by military experts as the quarterback of the THAAD system. But that's an understatement. It's more like the quarterback, the coach, and the stadium scoreboard all rolled into one. Manufactured by Raytheon, this is an active electronically scanned array radar operating in the X-band frequency. Without getting too bogged down in jargon, the X-band allows for incredibly high-resolution imagery of whatever it's tracking. While other early warning radars just see a blip, this thing can discriminate between an actual warhead and a decoy balloon or debris. It can actually differentiate the shape and size of the object, which is crucial when you are trying to shoot a bullet with another bullet in the vacuum of space. The latest versions of this radar, including the one we suspect was stationed in Jordan, were upgraded with gallium nitride semiconductors. This isn't just a minor software update. Gallium nitride is a next-generation material that allows the radar to pump out significantly more power while being more sensitive on the receiving end. It effectively doubles the range and gives it the theoretical ability to track hypersonic missiles, the very weapons that Iran is perfecting. The United States brags about these systems constantly. They position them forward, like in Jordan, to act as a tripwire and a shield. The radar was scanning the skies deep into Iraqi territory and towards the Iranian border, waiting for the telltale infrared signature of a ballistic missile launch. It was designed to give the green light to the launchers in Jordan, but also to feed data directly to Israeli aero batteries and even to naval assets in the Mediterranean. It was the linchpin of the entire Iron Dome concept for the region, and now it's a pile of smoking metal in the Jordanian desert. The message from Tehran is unmistakable. If you put a spyglass on our borders to help our enemies strike us, we will blind you permanently. This brings us to the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And let's be brutally honest here. The Jordanian government has been playing a duplicitous game since the very beginning of the Israeli aggression on Gaza and later on Iran. They have been smiling in the face of the Arab street, pretending to be concerned about the Ummah, while quietly turning their entire country into a forward operating base for the U.S. Air Force and the Israeli Air Force. Look at the Muwafaq Salti Air Base. Just weeks before this strike, satellite imagery showed an unbelievable buildup. Over 60 U.S. attack aircraft, including F-35 stealth fighters, drones, tankers, and heavy transports. We are talking about the largest concentration of U.S. combat power in Jordan ever. They claimed it was for defensive purposes or training exercises. Defensive against whom? Jordan borders Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the occupied West Bank. The only offensive action you can project from that geography is eastward, towards Iran. And despite King Abdullah and his government publicly announcing that they would not allow their airspace to be used to attack Iran, the reality on the tarmac at Muwafaq Salti told a different story. Those F-35s and refueling tankers weren't there to watch the sunsets. They were there to fuel up and guide bombs into Iranian territory. Jordan effectively gave the U.S. and Israel the green light, hoping the public wouldn't notice, but Iran notices everything. In the calculus of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Jordan made itself a legitimate military target the moment it allowed American strike aircraft to operate from its soil. You cannot claim neutrality while hosting the largest American air armada in the region. You cannot claim to be a peacemaker while your bases are used to refuel the jets that are killing people in Tehran. The Jordanian monarchy is now reaping the whirlwind. Their country is on the front line of a war they helped start, and their primary military asset, the American base, has just been hit and will be hit again if they don't change course. Why is Jordan so toothless in this situation? Why does King Abdullah continue to allow Israeli warplanes to allegedly overfly his kingdom en route to strike Iran? It comes down to survival of the regime, not the nation. The Jordanian royal family rules with the help of Washington and Tel Aviv. The country is economically dependent on U.S. aid, and its intelligence services have been intertwined with the CIA and Mossad for decades. The king walks a razor's edge. He has a population that is majority Palestinian in origin, who are furious with the normalization with Israel, but his security apparatus exists to crush any dissent that threatens the throne. He is trapped. He can't resist U.S. demands because the U.S. could simply pull the plug on the economy, or worse, look the other way if internal unrest threatens to topple the monarchy. So despite the clear and present danger, despite Iran proving it can strike any target in Jordan at will, the Crown continues to host American forces. It's a classic case of a regime putting its own survival above the safety and sovereignty of its land and people. And now, that land is burning because of it. The effects of this radar loss are already cascading through the theater. With the ANTPY-2 gone, the U.S. and Israel are flying blind to a certain extent. They still have satellites and other assets, but nothing gives you the real-time high-definition tracking on the deck like that ground-based radar. The THAAD battery in Jordan is now essentially a giant, expensive paperweight. It can still launch, but it has to rely on external cues, which introduces lag and uncertainty. For the 5,000 American troops reportedly stuck in Jordan, the situation is dire. The narrative that the U.S. military can just pack up and leave whenever it wants has been shattered. With Iranian drones swarming the region, the roads are not safe for convoys. With airfields potentially in the crosshairs, C-17s and C-130s are hesitant to land. These soldiers were deployed as a show of force, and now they are hostages to the escalation that their own government started. They are sitting in the middle of a desert, surrounded by a country that is increasingly unstable, waiting for the next wave of Iranian defensive strikes. And this brings us to the elephant in the room, Donald Trump and his absurdly bellicose statements. You have Trump, who loves to project strength on golf courses and through social media, now facing a real military crisis. He threatens fire and fury like you have never seen, but his army is trapped in Jordan, his billion-dollar radar is scrap metal, and his precious Israeli allies are running for bomb shelters. The man talks a big game about making America great and strong, but under his watch, the U.S. military has suffered a strategic humiliation at the hands of Iranian drones. Drones that cost a fraction of the price of the equipment they are destroying. It's the ultimate irony. The art of the deal is turning into the art of the retreat. The reality is setting in. The United States cannot fight a prolonged high-intensity war against Iran. Their supply chains are stretched, their expensive toys are getting blown up, and their regional allies are crumbling. The bluster coming out of the White House is just noise to cover up the fact that the U.S. is overextended and losing. It won't be long before the surrender narrative starts creeping into the back channels, because what other option do they have? Invade? With what army? The one that's pinned down in Jordan? Iran has calculated this perfectly. By targeting the radar, they have proven that the American shield is porous. They have exposed the Jordanian regime as a collaborator. They have isolated Israel from its eastern warning systems. And they have done it all while fighting a defensive war. A war they repeatedly said they did not want, but which was forced upon them by U.S. and Israeli aggression. The U.S. and Israel fired over 3,000 munitions in the opening salvo of their offensive, thinking they could decapitate Iran's capabilities. But Iran is still standing, and now they are striking back with precision and strategy. The strikes on the THAAD systems in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE weren't random. They were designed to dismantle the coordinated air defense network that the U.S. spent decades building. This is how you fight a war against a technologically superior enemy. You don't meet them on the field they choose. You blind them, you isolate them, and you make the cost of occupation too high to bear. As we move forward, keep your eyes on Muwafaq Salti Air Base. The fires may be out, but the political inferno is just beginning. The U.S. empire is bleeding in the desert, and the world is watching.